Imagine a person sitting in a quiet room, lit only by the glow of a laptop screen. This individual has never attended a computer science lecture, never wrestled with the semicolon errors of C++, and cannot distinguish a front-end framework from a back-end database. Yet they are currently typing a single sentence into a chat box. They are describing a complex fintech application, one that handles real-time currency conversion, encrypted user authentication, and a sleek, responsive dashboard for financial tracking. As they hit enter, something miraculous happens. In less than 60 seconds, the screen flickers with life. The database architecture is spun up, the user interface is rendered in clean, modern aesthetics, and the underlying logic is woven together into a production-ready product. This is no longer a dream or a high-budget tech demo from a multi-billion-dollar corporation. This is the reality of the software industry in early 2025. The traditional barriers to entry that once defined the digital world are not just crumbling, they have evaporated entirely. For decades, the status quo of software development was fundamentally broken for the average person. Building a digital product required a heavy tax, a tax of either years of specialized study or hundreds of thousands of dollars in capital. This was the era of the syntax barrier, a time when the world was divided between those who could speak the language of machines and those who were merely silent consumers of their work. If you had a revolutionary idea, you were at the mercy of technical gatekeepers. Today, that entire paradigm has shifted. We have entered the era of natural language programming. The focus has moved from the tedious how of writing code to the strategic what of defining a vision. Software development is becoming an act of conversation rather than a chore of manual labor. This transformation is driven by a new breed of AI tools that have moved beyond simple autocomplete features. We are witnessing the rise of agentic workflows through platforms like Replit Agent, Cursor, and Lovable. These are not just helpers, they are full-scale execution environments. When Claude 3.5 Sonnet was released in late 2024, it marked a definitive tipping point in machine reasoning. Suddenly, AI models weren't just suggesting the next line of code, they were understanding the entire context of a project, identifying bugs before they happened, and deploying applications to the cloud with a single command. This shift represents the most significant democratization of creation since the invention of the internet itself. The who of this new economy is the individual creator, known as the solopreneur. These are creative thinkers and non-technical founders who were previously locked out of the tech economy by the sheer complexity of building a product. Now, they are the army of one. This revolution is decentralized, spanning from the high-stakes boardrooms of Silicon Valley to modest bedrooms in developing nations where a stable internet connection and a clear idea are the only requirements for success. The geography of innovation is flattening. A teenager in Lagos or a marketing professional in Berlin now has the same technical firepower as a well-funded startup team of 10. The legendary expert Andrej Karpathy recently coined a term for this new way of working: vibe coding. It sounds casual, but its implications are profound. Coding is no longer about the rigid mastery of syntax. It is about vibing with the AI to shape a digital result. In this model, the human acts as the director or the pilot, steering the AI through high-level intent, while the AI manages the grueling technical execution. You are no longer fighting with the machine, you are dancing with it. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. This new relationship between humans and machines is the core promise of our time. We are moving from the era of manual syntax to the era of pure vision. The core promise of this movement is that your imagination is now your only limit. Large language models have transitioned into sophisticated agents capable of managing entire development cycles. However, this shift brings a sense of extreme urgency. If you are still relying on traditional, slow-moving development methods, you are competing against creators who are moving fast. The journey to this historical turning point was paved with the digital corpses of brilliant ideas that never saw the light of day. For decades, the syntax barrier stood as an impassable fortress for the vast majority of humanity. Imagine having a clear vision for a tool that could revolutionize healthcare or streamline complex logistics, only to be met with the cold reality of the technical gauntlet. To even launch a basic minimum viable product, an entrepreneur faced a grueling uphill battle. You did not just need an idea, you needed a mastery of Python, JavaScript, React, and a dozen other volatile acronyms that seem to change every 6 months. If you lacked those specific technical skills, the cost of entry was staggering. In the traditional model, transforming a concept into a working prototype often required a massive war chest of $50,000 to $100,000 just to cover senior developer salaries and operational overhead. This was the frustration gap. the space where innovation went to die because the financial and mental toll of building was simply too high for most to endure. The path to the current revolution was not an overnight leap, but a series of hard-fought technological evolutions. We can trace this progression through 3 distinct phases that have fundamentally altered our relationship with machines. Phase 1 was the rise of low-code and no-code platforms like Wix and Bubble. These tools were a revelation for their time, allowing users to drag and drop visual elements to build websites and simple applications. They were accessible, but they were ultimately limited by the walls of their own ecosystems. If your idea did not fit into a predefined template, you were stuck at a dead end. Then came Phase 2, the era of the co-pilots. Tools like GitHub Autocomplete introduced AI-powered suggestions, predicting the next few lines of code based on what the developer was actively typing. This was a massive productivity booster for professionals, but it did little for the true novice. You still had to be a pro to know if the AI suggestion was correct or how to integrate it into a larger system. The pilot was still doing all the heavy lifting. The AI was just a slightly smarter assistant. Everything changed with the arrival of Phase 3, the era of the AI agent. This is the moment where the AI stopped being a suggestion engine and started being an execution engine. In this new landscape, the roles have completely flipped. The human is no longer the manual laborer laying the bricks of syntax. The human is the product manager. The AI has stepped into the role of the lead developer. But why is this happening specifically now? The breakthrough lies in the massive leap in reasoning capabilities found in models like GPT-4o and Claude. These models do not just predict the next word, they understand the architectural intent behind a human request. They can map out a complex database schema, handle intricate state management, and ensure that the front end talks to the back end seamlessly. They have developed a form of digital common sense that allows them to navigate the nuances of software construction that previously required a highly trained human brain. This technical intelligence is being met with a maturing infrastructure that removes the last vestiges of friction. We are seeing the rise of instant deploy platforms where the act of writing code and the act of launching a server are fused into a single motion. In the past, even if you wrote the code, you had to worry about server configuration, domain names, security certificates, and database hosting. Today, AI agents handle the automated setup of these environments in the background. It is the perfect marriage of human creativity and machine precision. The human brain is unparalleled at identifying problems and dreaming up solutions, but it is notoriously bad at keeping track of 10,000 lines of picky syntax. AI is the exact opposite. It never gets tired, it does not miss a closing bracket, and it remembers every single variable across the entire project scope. This evolution marks a fundamental shift in logic. We are moving from imperative programming to declarative programming, where you describe what you want and the machine at last finds the right way. As we navigate this new landscape, the tools of the trade are no longer static text editors but living, breathing digital collaborators. Leading this charge is Cursor, an AI native code editor that has fundamentally reshaped the developer experience by replacing traditional environments like VS Code. Unlike predecessors that functioned as typewriters, Cursor operates with an almost omniscient understanding of a project's entire architecture. When the solopreneur opens a folder, the AI does not simply look at the file currently on the screen, it indexes the entire code base. It understands the relationship between the front-end interface and the back-end logic, allowing it to predict errors before they even occur. If you ask it to change how a user logs in, it doesn't just suggest a few lines of code. It hunts down every single dependency across dozens of files and updates them simultaneously. This eliminates the tedious hunt and peck work that used to consume 80% of a developer's day, leaving the human free to focus on the high-level vision. The democratization of this power extends into the browser with the Replit agent. This is where the barrier to entry for the non-technical founder finally crumbles. Replit has transformed from a simple online coding platform into a fully autonomous software factory. For a non-technical user, the experience feels like a conversation with a lead engineer. You might enter a prompt as simple as needing a platform to manage a small fleet of delivery bikes. In the past, this would have required a team of 3 in a month of work. Today, the Replit agent interprets that request, designs a database to track the bikes, builds an administrative dashboard, and integrates a map for real-time tracking. Most importantly, it handles the deployment, it provisions the servers, and sets up the live URL, meaning the app is functional and public within minutes of the initial conversation. Simultaneously, we are seeing the rise of prompt-to-app interfaces like Bolt, New and Lovable, Dev. These platforms represent the peak of the visual revolution in software development. They focus on the speed of the interface, allowing creators to describe a complex user journey and see it rendered instantly in the browser. It is a world of instant gratification where the distance between a mental image and a clickable prototype has shrunk to nearly zero. The vibe coding mentioned earlier comes alive here. The creator can tweak the aesthetic, adjust the flow, and refine the user experience simply by talking to the tool. It is no longer about learning how to manipulate a framework like React or Vue. It is about knowing what a great user experience feels like and guiding the AI to manifest it. This is made possible by what experts call the agentic workflow, characterized by a self-healing code loop. In traditional development, the appearance of a bug was a momentum killer. It required a human to stop, analyze the stack trace, and manually fix the syntax. AI agents have turned this on its head. When the agent runs the code it just wrote and encounters an error, it doesn't stop. It automatically captures the error log, analyzes why the code failed, and writes a correction. This cycle repeats until the code is functional. To the user, this process is often invisible or appears as a brief series of thinking notifications. This autonomous problem solving is the secret sauce that allows the 12-year-old case study to thrive. This child, representative of a new generation of digital natives, managed to build a viral data-driven weather app in 20 minutes. They didn't need to understand API polling or JSON parsing. They only needed to understand the what of their idea. While the agent managed the how through constant automated trial and error, the impact of this shift is equally visible in the professional world, as seen with our marketing professional facing a bottleneck in their daily lead generation. They didn't wait for a corporate budget or an IT ticket. Instead, over a single lunch break, they orchestrated an AI agent to build a custom internal tool that scraped data, categorize leads using sentiment analysis, and pipe the results directly into a spreadsheet. This task, which previously would have been manual or required an expensive SaaS subscription, was built for the cost of a few API credits. This shows that technical breakdown is no longer the hurdle. Modern AI models utilize massive context windows, allowing them to remember every specific detail of a custom tool. This persistent memory ensures that the AI never loses the thread of the project, enabling complex updates without breaking existing features. Software development is no longer a linear process of building a finished product. It has become a continuous cycle of software iteration. The competitive advantage in this new era doesn't belong to the person who knows the most syntax, but to the person who can iterate through the feedback loop the fastest. This seismic shift in how software is created brings us to the elephant in the room, the transformation of the labor market. For decades, the entry point into the tech industry was the role of the junior developer. These were the foot soldiers of code, spending their days writing boilerplate logic and fixing minor bugs that senior architects were too busy to handle. Today, AI agents perform these tasks with a speed and accuracy that no human can match. This has led many to question whether the junior dev is facing an existential crisis. When a solopreneur can prompt a functional interface into existence in seconds, the traditional value of being a manual coder begins to evaporate. We are witnessing a crash in the market value of syntax knowledge. It is a commodity provided for free. As syntax value declines, the value of system architecture and problem solving is skyrocketing. The skill set of the future is about understanding how different components of a digital ecosystem interact. The solopreneur must transition from being a builder to being an orchestrator. This redefinition of skill means that the person who understands user psychology and the structural flow of data becomes far more valuable than the person who merely knows how to write a script. The antagonist, the syntax barrier, has been dismantled, but in its place stands a new challenge: the complexity of vision. You no longer need to speak to the machine in its tongue, but you must know exactly what to tell it to do. This shift fuels the explosion of micro-SaaS businesses. In the traditional model, a software idea required $50,000 in initial capital to reach a minimum viable product. You had to hire a team and hope the market liked what you built months later. Now, the cost of building a startup is approaching zero. This financial liberation allows for the rise of specialized software companies that solve specific problems for niche markets. These businesses, run by a single individual, can generate significant revenue with almost no overhead. The solopreneur is no longer a dreamer stuck at the gate. They are the owner of a production-ready software suite. This is the era of one-person companies, where the focus moves away from how to build and centers entirely on what to build, providing value. A pattern interrupt is necessary here. Does this mean professional developers are obsolete? No. What we are seeing is the lifting of the ceiling of human productivity. The veteran developer is not being replaced. They are being given a superpower. Instead of spending weeks on a single feature, that professional can now manage the output of what would have previously required a 10-person team. They are moving from being the person holding the hammer to being the site foreman. One engineer, augmented by agentic workflows, can ship at a velocity historically reserved for well-funded Silicon Valley giants. The competitive landscape is being rewritten. Companies that embrace these tools will iterate daily, while companies that resist will be buried by faster competitors. This transition demands a fundamental reform in education. For years, the mantra was that everyone should learn to code, starting with languages like Python. However, teaching a child how to code in the traditional way might be as outdated as teaching them how to use a slide rule. While logic remains essential, we should be teaching logic and AI orchestration. We must teach students how to break down a complex problem, how to iterate with an AI, and how to verify the output. The 12-year-old represents this shift. They succeeded because they mastered the art of system design, not because they memorized a programming textbook. This is the new literacy. Ultimately, the creativity tax is gone. For the first time in history, your ability to profit is limited only by your imagination, not your technical background. We are moving toward a meritocracy of ideas rather than a hierarchy of technical skill. If you can see a problem and envision a solution, the tools are now in your hands to build it. The barrier that once separated the dreamer from the creator has dissolved. Your vision is the compass, and the AI is the engine that drives you forward into the uncharted territories of digital innovation. The era of the individual has arrived, yet this democratization of creation brings with it a shadow that looms over the excitement of the new digital frontier. As the individual creator pushes the boundaries of what is possible, a silent crisis begins to brew within the very foundations of these AI-generated structures. We are entering the era of the technical debt crisis. In the past, technical debt was something managed by engineering teams who understood the trade-offs they were making for speed. Today, the debt is being accrued by people who may not even know the term exists. When an app is conjured into existence through a series of natural language prompts, the resulting codebase can often become a black box. The creator sees a beautiful interface and a working product, but beneath the surface lies a complex web of logic that they did not write and, crucially, cannot fully explain. If the AI makes a non-standard architectural choice or uses a library that becomes deprecated, the non-technical founder is left holding a machine they cannot repair. This is the danger of creating software you do not truly understand. This lack of deep understanding extends into the dangerous territory of security vulnerabilities. In the traditional world, a developer would spend years learning about cross-site scripting, SQL injection, and data encryption. Now, a person with a vision but no security training might ask an AI to build a social network or a fintech platform. The AI might provide a functional prototype, but if the prompt wasn't specific about security protocols, the resulting application might leave sensitive user data exposed to the world. We are seeing the rise of a new threat landscape where prompt injection becomes the primary weapon for malicious actors. Hackers may not need to find a flaw in the code so much as a flaw in how the AI interprets instructions. This creates an urgent need for AI-driven security auditors, specialized agents whose sole job is to hunt for the mistakes made by other generative agents. The hallucination problem further complicates this landscape. Even the most advanced models like Claude 3.5 Sonnet are prone to moments of digital delusion. They might invent a function that doesn't exist or create a logical loop that works under ideal conditions, but fails spectacularly under stress. For the veteran developer, these hallucinations are often easily spotted and corrected. But for the 12-year-old or the marketing professional, these subtle, dangerous bugs can go entirely unnoticed until they cause a system-wide failure or a loss of data. The risk is that we are building a world on top of software that works most of the time, but fails in ways that are unpredictable and difficult to diagnose. There is also the psychological phenomenon of the sameness trap. Because these AI models are trained on the vast repositories of existing human code, they tend to favor the most common patterns and aesthetic choices. If every new app is built using the same underlying logic from the same few models, we risk a stagnation of digital diversity. The internet could become a place where every interface feels familiar because it was drawn from the same average of training data. Innovation requires the subversion of patterns, but AI is fundamentally designed to follow them. This places a premium on the individual creator's ability to demand uniqueness and push the AI beyond its default settings. Legally, the ground is equally shaky. Intellectual property remains a looming gray area for regulators and creators. If an AI generates 10,000 lines of code based on a single paragraph of human intent, who truly owns the copyright? Is it the person who wrote the prompt, the company that created the model, or does the code belong to the public domain? As the first one-person unicorns emerge, these legal battles will likely redefine the concept of ownership in the digital age. Despite these risks, the perspective from within the industry is one of cautious empowerment. The veteran developer isn't retreating. They are evolving into a new kind of professional. They speak of using AI to skip the boring stuff, the boilerplate, the unit tests, and the repetitive environment setup. By offloading these tasks to an agent, they can focus entirely on high-level logic and system design. They act as the high-level architect, ensuring the AI's output remains robust and secure. Meanwhile, the newbie experiences a profound psychological shift. They describe the feeling of being a god of their own digital world, capable of manifesting reality from thought. This empowerment is intoxicating, but it requires responsibility. You no longer need to code, but you must govern the machine with absolute precision and deep personal care. Your vision is the law. The conversation about these risks leads to a single, provocative hypothesis circulating through Silicon Valley. Sam Altman, a central figure in this AI revolution, famously predicted the imminent arrival of the first one-person billion-dollar company. This is not a hyperbolic statement. It is a logical conclusion based on the leverage available to the individual creator. Historically, achieving a unicorn valuation required hundreds of engineers and layers of management. But today, the individual creator is the chief executive, the architect, and the marketing director. By leveraging AI agents to handle the massive technical debt and infrastructure, a single visionary can scale a product to millions without hiring a second human employee. This is the ultimate climax: human intelligence multiplied by 10,000 through digital agents. This shift represents a permanent decentralization of technological power. For decades, proximity to Silicon Valley and venture capital were the gatekeepers of innovation. If you were not in a tech hub, your access to the engineering talent required to build a world-class product was limited by geography. Today, that moat is evaporating. A founder in a remote village working with a basic laptop has access to the same virtual engineering team as a funded startup in Palo Alto. The power has shifted from those who control capital to those who control vision. We are seeing a global meritocracy where the quality of the insight matters more than the pedigree of the person who conceived it. Consequently, the traditional model of software outsourcing faces an existential crisis. Why would a founder spend $20,000 on a developmental agency to build a prototype when they can use an AI agent to do it for $20 in API credits over a weekend? The era of paying for hours of labor is being replaced by paying for intelligence on demand. This doesn't just lower the cost, it changes the velocity of experimentation. A creator can test 10 different ideas in the time it used to take to write a single project proposal. The friction of the old way is now a terminal competitive liability. However, this ease of creation brings a new bottleneck. As the barrier to entry collapses, we enter an era of extreme saturation. When anyone can build a sophisticated application in an afternoon, the digital world will be flooded with millions of AI-generated tools. The new battleground is no longer the ability to build, but the ability to be found. In this crowded marketplace, the technical achievement of making an app functional is now a commodity. The real value is shifting toward distribution, storytelling, and brand. Success depends on how well you can connect your product to a human need and build a community around it. We must realize that programming has finally evolved into its ultimate form, a human-AI dialogue. For half a century, we were forced to speak the language of machines. We had to bend our minds to fit their rigid logic. Now the machine has finally learned to speak our language. This is the desktop publishing moment for software. Just as Photoshop empowered designers and YouTube democratized video, AI is turning software engineering into a creative medium accessible to every human being with a story to tell. The syntax barrier has collapsed, leaving only the purity of the idea behind to define our collective future. This brings us to a final, profound realization. If technical skill is no longer the moat, what is your competitive advantage? The answer lies in qualities that no algorithm can replicate: your taste, your understanding of a niche, and your empathy for the user. Both the veteran developer and the newbie stand on this same precipice. The winner in this new economy will not be the one who knows the most syntax, but the one who has the clearest vision of what the world needs next. The age of how to build has ended. The age of what to build has begun. Programming is no longer a simple chore, it is a conversation. In 5 years, software will not be a static product, but a living entity. Applications, once fixed structures, will become fluid and responsive. Imagine an interface that shifts its layout because it senses you are struggling with a task, or a database that optimizes its own logic for a surge in traffic. This is the era of self-evolving software. The individual creator won't just launch a product, they will plant a digital seed that adapts to its environment. This autonomy changes our relationship with tools. We are moving from being mere users toward becoming gardeners of digital ecosystems. The future divide will not be defined by Python scripts. That metric is dead. Instead, a chasm will open between those who use AI to build and those who remain passive consumers. The syntax barrier has been dismantled, but a new barrier of initiative has taken its place. If you remain a passive observer, you risk becoming a digital tenant in a world built by those who dared to experiment. The tools are here, accessible and ready, but they require a pilot with a destination. Think of AI as an exoskeleton for the mind. Just as a physical exoskeleton allows an individual to lift weights that would crush an unaugmented person, AI allows a single mind to manage architectural complexity that previously required an entire department of engineers. The veteran developer is no longer restricted by the manual labor of typing. They are free to design entire ecosystems. You are still the pilot. You provide the intent, direction, and ethical guardrails. The AI provides the raw power and the execution of syntax that once took a lifetime to master. This partnership is the most significant upgrade to productivity since the steam engine. The call to action is simple. Stop memorizing traditional coding rules. Instead, start learning to build. Pick up a tool like Cursor or Replit Agent and bring a small idea to life today. Do not wait for a permission slip from a computer science department. The technical gatekeepers have been bypassed. Whether you are the marketing professional automating a workflow or the 12-year-old building a viral game, the barrier to entry is no longer an education. It is simply your willingness to articulate a vision. In this new paradigm, the most valuable programming language is the one you are speaking right now. Your native tongue has become the primary interface for creation. However, this shift requires a new kind of literacy. It requires precision and intent. To vibe code effectively, as Andrei Karpathy suggests, you must describe a problem with absolute clarity. You must understand how a system should function, even if you never touch a code line. The better you can think, the better you can build. We are rapidly approaching the reality Sam Altman envisioned, a world where a single individual possesses the leverage of a billion-dollar corporation. This is the final resolution of the struggle against the syntax barrier. The future doesn't belong to the people who can write code. It belongs to those who know what the world needs next. It belongs to those who see a friction in daily life and decide to fix it using the digital clay that is now available to everyone. Imagine a future where every individual possesses a suite of software. Your tools won't be purchased from giant firms. You will build them in an afternoon. They fit your life perfectly because they were shaped by your unique needs. This is the ultimate decentralization. We are moving from a world of mass-produced tools to a world of artisanal, personal software created on demand. This shift represents the final death of the one-size-fits-all digital economy that dominated the last few decades. This is the greatest era in history to be a person with an idea. The distance from thought to product has vanished. The tools have arrived, the barrier is gone, and the machine is waiting for your command. The only question remains, what will you build? Do not waste this moment of power. The era of the individual creator has begun, and the world is waiting for your vision. This is your chance to reshape the digital landscape.